orbital station hung in space like a jewel. Its name was Luminara's Crown, and it was the largest structure Jiho had ever seen. Through the viewport of the human shuttle, he watched as ships from 100 different worlds docked at its many ports. Some were elegant and smooth. Others looked like living creatures. A few seemed to be made of pure light. Jiho adjusted his formal suit and took a deep breath. He was just a diplomatic aide, 26 years old, and this was his first major assignment, Earth's delegation to the Galactic Coalition Summit. Around him, the other human representatives checked their tablets and reviewed protocols. Everyone seemed nervous. "Remember," Ambassador Kim said quietly, "we are the newcomers here. Most of these species have been traveling the stars for thousands of years. Asha, we must show respect but also dignity. We are not beggars." The shuttle docked with a soft thump. The doors opened, and Jiho stepped into a corridor that seemed to shift colors as he walked. The air smelled strange, like flowers he had never encountered. Ahead, he could hear sounds that might have been music or conversation or something else entirely. The main chamber of the summit was enormous. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above. Platforms floated at different heights, each holding delegates from different worlds. Some species sat on what looked like chairs. Others floated in bubbles of liquid. A few seemed to exist partly in this dimension and partly somewhere else. Jiho's eyes were drawn upward to one of the highest platforms. There sat the Veltharan delegation. He had studied them during the flight. The Veltharans were one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Their empire spanned thousands of worlds. At the center of the Veltharan platform sat Princess Erin. Even from this distance, she was striking. Her skin was a deep violet color, and she had 4 arms that moved with unconscious grace. Markings on her face and shoulders glowed softly, shifting from blue to purple to gold. Her eyes were silver, literally silver, like liquid metal. The ceremony began. Species after species presented themselves to the assembly. The Korthan Collective, beings of pure energy. The Muradin clans, insectoid warriors. The Thessian Republic, aquatic philosophers. Each had history stretching back millennia. Each had technologies that seemed like magic to human eyes. Then it was Earth's turn. Ambassador Kim stepped forward. "Yes, we come from Earth," she said, her voice amplified by the chamber's systems. "We know we are young compared to most of you. We have only been traveling between the stars for 50 years, but we come in peace and friendship. We wish to learn from you and perhaps, in time, to contribute what we can to the greater galactic community." Some delegates made sounds that might have been approval. Others remained silent. A few made gestures that Jiho's translator couldn't interpret but felt negative. Jiho glanced up at the Veltharan platform. Princess Erin was watching them, not with the bored expression she had worn for the other presentations. She was leaning forward slightly, her silver eyes focused and intent. Their gazes met across the vast chamber. Jiho knew the protocol. Lesser species were supposed to look away from galactic royalty. It was a sign of respect, his briefing had said. But something in Jiho rebelled against the idea. He wasn't lesser. He was different, yes. Younger in the ways of space, certainly, but not lesser. He held her gaze for a moment, then he gave a small nod. Not a bow, not subservience. Just an acknowledgement, one person to another, equal to equal. Princess Erin's markings flashed bright gold for just an instant. Surprised, Jiho realized. He had surprised her. The ceremony continued, but Jiho found it hard to concentrate. He could feel the princess's eyes returning to the human delegation again and again. After the formal presentations ended, delegates mingled in the grand gallery. It was a chance for informal conversations and alliance building. Jiho walked among beings from across the galaxy, trying not to stare at the incredible variety of forms life had taken. A tall reptilian being approached the human group. His scales were deep red and his eyes were cold. "I am Lord Cassith," he said in perfect English, though his translator made the words sound hissing. "I wanted to meet the famous humans. Tell me, how many worlds do you control?" 3 colonies, Ambassador Kim said carefully, "all in our home system." 3. Lord Cassith's laugh was not pleasant. "My people control 300 systems, and we are considered a minor power." He looked at Jiho directly. "What can creatures who have barely left their homeworld possibly offer to this coalition?" Before Jiho could respond, a voice spoke from behind them. Perhaps fresh perspective, Lord Cassith. Everyone turned. Princess Erin stood there, were her forearms folded in a way that seemed formal. Her attendants flanked her, looking nervous that she had left her platform. Your Highness, Lord Cassith bowed deeply, I did not mean to offend. I am not offended. Princess Erin's silver eyes moved to Jiho. I am curious. You are the one who nodded to me during the ceremony. Yes, Your Highness, Jiho said. He didn't apologize. Why did you not avert your eyes as protocol demands? Jiho considered lying or making an excuse. Instead, he told the truth. Because I meant the nod as respect, not as a challenge. Where I come from, looking away can seem dishonest. I wanted to show that my respect was genuine. Several alien delegates gasped. Lord Cassith made a sound like choking, but Princess Erin's markings shifted to a warm gold color. Interesting, she said softly. Your people are very young in the ways of space, but perhaps that means you have not yet learned to hide behind old customs. She tilted her head. Tell me, Jiho of Earth, do all humans face things so directly? We try to, Jiho said. We don't always succeed, but we believe in being honest about who we are. Princess Erin was quiet for a moment. Then she did something that made her attendants gasp. She extended one of her hands in the human gesture of greeting. I think I would like to learn more about your people. Jiho shook her hand. Her skin was warm and slightly rough, like fine sandpaper. And I would like to learn about yours, Your Highness. As the princess moved away, surrounded by her nervous attendants, Jiho caught Ambassador Kim's expression. She looked worried and impressed in equal measure. Hi, that was either very brave or very stupid, she whispered. Maybe both, Jiho admitted, but he couldn't help glancing back at the Veltharan platform. Princess Arin had returned there, but she was speaking quickly to one of her advisors, gesturing in a way that seemed excited. The summit would last for weeks. Jiho had a feeling things were about to get interesting. Later that evening, as Jiho reviewed the day's events in his quarters, a message appeared on his tablet. It was an official communication from the Veltharan delegation. Princess Erin requested information about Earth's culture, history, and people. She wanted to understand these strange newcomers better. Jiho smiled as he began to compile the information. The galaxy had noticed humanity. Now they just had to prove they deserved to be here. On the second day of the summit began with what they called the trial of worthiness. Any species applying for coalition membership had to prove their value. Sometimes it was a demonstration of technology, sometimes a test of knowledge, sometimes something else entirely. Jiho sat in the observation chamber with the other human delegates. His colleague Dayun sat beside him, her fingers dancing across a tablet as she ran calculations. Dayun was a brilliant engineer and pilot, though she was only 24. She had helped design some of Earth's newest ships. I don't like this, Dayun muttered. The other species got reasonable challenges. The Korthan had to solve a mathematical puzzle. The Murden demonstrated their weapons. But I have a feeling we're going to get something different. She was right. Lord Cassith rose from his platform. The reptilian noble had made his dislike of humans clear. Now he smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. I propose a challenge for the humans, he announced. Let them navigate the Axios Nebula. The chamber fell silent. The quantum corridors? Someone asked. That's impossible. Not impossible, Lord Cassith said smoothly. Difficult, yes. But if these humans are worthy of joining our coalition, surely they can accomplish what many of our own species can barely manage. Jiho's translator provided context. The Axios Nebula was a region of space where reality itself seemed unstable. Quantum fluctuations created constantly shifting pathways through it. Ships that entered often emerged light years from where they intended. Some never emerged at all. That's not a test, Dayon whispered. That's an execution. Ambassador Kim stood. Lord Cassith, this seems excessive. Even advanced species struggle with the nebula. Which is precisely why it's the perfect test, Cassith replied. If humans wish to join the coalition, they must prove they can handle dangerous situations. Space is full of hazards. The nebula is simply one of them. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some delegates seemed uncomfortable with the challenge. Others looked interested to see what the humans would do. A few, Jiho noticed, seemed to agree with Kassith. He looked up at the Veltharan platform. Princess Aran sat very still, her markings flickering between colors. She was angry, Jiho realized, but she said nothing. Perhaps she couldn't without seeming to favor humanity unfairly. Ambassador Kim glanced back at her delegation. They had a choice: refuse the challenge and look weak, or accept it and probably die. Jiho stood up. Ambassador, may I speak? Kim looked surprised but nodded. Jiho addressed the chamber. We accept the challenge. Before anyone could react, he continued, but we request one condition. Princess Aran's own navigation officer must verify our course afterward, to ensure fairness. The chamber erupted in noise. Jiho had just implied that he expected to succeed. More than that, he had called on the princess directly. Princess Aran's markings blazed gold. She stood, and silence fell immediately. You are confident you will survive to have your course verified? Yes, Your Highness. Why? Jiho chose his words carefully. Because we approach problems differently than most species here. Our youth in space means we haven't learned what's supposed to be impossible yet. A sound that might have been laughter came from somewhere in the chamber. Princess Aran's expression was unreadable. Then she nodded. Very well, I accept. My navigation officer will verify your course, if you survive. The challenge was set. That evening, Jiho and Daeun met with Captain Hyun aboard the Soul's Pride, Earth's diplomatic vessel. Hyun was a veteran of Earth's colonial missions, a woman in her 50s with gray in her hair and steady hands. You realize this is probably a death sentence, Hyun said calmly. I know, Jiho replied, but refusing would have been worse. They would have never respected us. Daeun pulled up a holographic display of the Axios Nebula. It looked like a storm frozen in space, with pathways that twisted and doubled back on themselves. According to Coalition records, the problem is prediction. The quantum fluctuations happen too fast for most navigation computers. By the time they calculate a safe route, the route has changed. Can our systems do better? Jiho asked. Daeun smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. Maybe. Our navigation AI is different from alien ones. Most alien species try to predict the quantum shifts. We designed ours to adapt to them in real time. What's the difference? Other species try to control chaos by predicting it, Captain Hyun explained. We try to work with chaos by accepting it. Our AI uses something called chaos theory. It was developed by human mathematicians. Instead of trying to see the future, it looks for patterns in randomness. Will it work? Jiho asked. She had no idea, Daeun said honestly. We've never tested it in anything like the Axios Nebula, but it's our best chance. The next day, the Soul's Pride departed for the nebula. Half the summit seemed to be watching via long-range sensors. Some were curious. Some were waiting to see the humans fail. Princess Aran insisted on monitoring the attempt personally from her flagship, the Eternal Dawn. Her advisors had argued against it, but she had overruled them. Jiho wondered why she cared so much. As the Soul's Pride approached the nebula, Jiho stood on the bridge with Captain Hyun and Daeun. Through the view screen, the nebula looked beautiful and terrible. Space itself seemed to ripple and fold. All crew to stations, Hyun ordered. Engage the navigation AI. They entered the nebula. Immediately, everything went wrong. When the ship shook as quantum fluctuations hit it, the view screen showed pathways that appeared and disappeared. The AI began calculating routes at incredible speed, adjusting every fraction of a second. It's working, Daeun said, watching her instruments. The AI is keeping up with the changes. But then they hit something the AI hadn't prepared for. A recursive quantum loop. Space folded back on itself in a way that trapped them. No matter which way they turned, they ended up in the same place. The AI couldn't solve it. The loop was too perfect, too self-contained. Mathematics alone couldn't break free. We're stuck, Hyun said grimly. Jiho stared at the view screen, thinking. The AI was trying to calculate a way out. But calculation was the problem. The loop was mathematical. Fighting mathematics with mathematics wouldn't work. Owa shut down the AI, Jiho said suddenly. What? Daeun turned to him. The loop is based on logical patterns. The AI keeps trying logical solutions. That's why we're trapped. We need to do something illogical. That's insane, Daeun said. but she was already pulling up manual controls. What do you want to do? Jiho closed his eyes, thinking about human philosophy, about the things that made humanity different. Logic was universal, but choice, random choice, that was something else. Pick a direction, he said. Any direction. Don't calculate. Don't think. Just choose. Captain Hyun looked at him for a long moment. Then she reached out and pointed at a seemingly random spot on the navigation display. There! Diane set the course. The ship turned, and suddenly, impossibly, they were free of the loop. Hey, how did that work? Doan gasped. Because we made a choice instead of a calculation, Jiho said. The loop couldn't predict that. The rest of the journey was still dangerous, but the AI had learned something from that moment. It started incorporating random elements into its calculations, not pure logic, but logic mixed with intuition. Hours later, the Soul's Pride emerged from the nebula. Not only had they survived, but Dayun's instruments showed they had mapped a stable route through it, something no species had ever accomplished. On the eternal dawn, Princess Erin watched the human ship appear on her sensors. Her markings glowed bright gold. She had been holding her breath without realizing it. When the Soul's Pride docked back at the station, Princess Erin was waiting. She personally verified their navigation logs. Shaktiz promised. Her officer confirmed everything. How did you do it? She asked Jiho directly. How did you succeed where species with thousands of years of experience have failed? Jiho thought about how to explain. We didn't try to control the chaos, Your Highness. We learned to dance with it. Princess Erin was quiet for a long time. Then she said something that surprised everyone. I think humanity has much to teach us. The crystal gardens of Luminara's crown were beautiful beyond description. Plants from 1,000 worlds grew under artificial sunlight, tended by automated systems that had run for centuries. The gardens were designed for diplomatic receptions, places where delegates could meet informally away from the formal chambers. Tonight, the gardens hosted a celebration of humanity's successful trial. And the mood was lighter than before. Some species who had been cold to humans were now curious. Even Lord Cassith had offered stiff congratulations, though his eyes remained unfriendly. Jiho walked among crystalline trees that sang softly when the air moved through them. His younger sister Sora was with him. She was 22 and a xenobiologist, studying alien cultures and life forms. She had begged to come to the summit to see so many species in one place. This is incredible, Sora breathed, watching a group of Thessian delegates float past in their water spheres. I could study here for a lifetime and not understand everything. You'd try, though, Jiho said with a smile. Someone approached them. Princess Erin without her full guard detail. Just two attendants followed at a respectful distance. Already, may I speak with you? She asked Jiho. Of course, Your Highness. Jiho gestured to Sora. This is my sister, Sora. Sora tried to bow and nearly fell over. Princess Erin's markings flickered with what might have been amusement. Please, no formality. Not tonight. I wanted to ask about your world. Jiho of Earth. Tell me what it's like. They walked together through the gardens. Jiho described Earth, the blue oceans, the green forests, cities that reached toward the sky, and communities that still lived close to nature. He talked about human diversity, the thousands of cultures and languages. He was honest about problems too. Wars, poverty, environmental damage. We're not perfect, he admitted. We make mistakes, sometimes terrible ones, but we keep trying to do better. My people were once like that, Princess Erin said softly. Thousands of years ago. But we grew comfortable. We stopped questioning ourselves. Now our empire is vast but stagnant. We have forgotten how to change. Change is hard, Jiho said, but I think it's necessary. Without change, there's no growth. Princess Erin looked at him with those silver eyes. Your people are so young in the stars, yet you seem to understand things my ancient civilization has forgotten. Before Jiho could respond, Sora called out, Brother, you need to see this plant. The biology is fascinating. Jiho excused himself and joined his sister. Princess Erin watched them go, her expression thoughtful. The reception continued. Delegates mingled, conversations flowed, and for a brief time, the galaxy seemed at peace. Then the first weapon fired. The blast came from somewhere above. A beam of pure energy that would have cut through Princess Erin if she had been standing 2 feet to the left. Instead, it struck a crystal sculpture, which exploded in a shower of glittering fragments. For a moment, everything froze. Then chaos erupted. More weapons fired from hidden positions. Jiho saw attackers in dark suits, wearing masks, appearing from maintenance corridors and hidden alcoves. They moved with military precision, targeting the most important delegates. The Shadow Syndicate. Jiho recognized them from briefings, a terrorist organization that opposed the coalition's expansion. They believed alien species should remain separate, not unified. Around the gardens, alien security forces began responding, but they moved slowly, following protocols. Protect your own delegates first, establish defensive positions, and wait for proper authorization before engaging. Humans didn't have those protocols. Jiho saw Princess Aaron standing exposed, her attendants frozen in shock. An attacker was raising a weapon toward her. Without thinking, Jiho ran. He covered the distance in seconds and tackled the princess behind a large crystal sculpture, just as plasma fire seared through the space where she had stood. "Stay down," he ordered, his body covering hers. Princess Aaron's forearms pushed at him. "You need to protect yourself." "I am protecting myself. If you die, humanity loses its best ally." Another explosion rocked the gardens. Jiho looked around desperately. He could see Dayun and other human delegates already moving, not to safety, toward the danger. Dayun was pulling a Muradin delegate behind cover, and another human was helping wounded aliens to safety. Jiho activated his comm device. "All humans, coordinate defensive positions. Priority is civilian protection. Sora, you know xenobiology. Identify safe zones for different species." His sister's voice came back, steady despite the fear in it. "The Thessians need water. Get them to the fountains. Muradin can withstand heat. The burning sections are safe for them." Jiho began directing people, using his comm to coordinate with other humans. It wasn't military training. It was just common sense and the willingness to act. A group of attackers moved toward their position. Jiho had no weapon, but he had a heavy piece of crystal from the shattered sculpture. He waited until they were close, then threw it at the lead attacker's head. The crystal struck true and the attacker went down. Princess Aaron stared at him. "You fight with rocks? We fight with whatever we have." More coalition security forces were finally engaging now. The battle turned. The attackers began to retreat, but they had done damage. Jiho could see wounded delegates, damaged sections of the garden, fires burning in places. One last attacker appeared, emerging from behind a tree. He had a grenade. Jiho saw where he was aiming, toward a group of delegates including several children from the Korthan species. No time to think, Jiho ran toward the attacker. He hit the man low, a tackle that would have made his old rugby coach proud. They went down together, the grenade flying from the attacker's hand. The grenade exploded in midair, far enough from the children but close enough to Jiho and the attacker. The blast threw them both. Jiho felt heat and pain, and then hit the ground hard. When he could see again, medical teams were rushing through the gardens. Someone was shouting orders. Hands lifted him gently. He tried to stand, but his leg wouldn't support him. Burns covered his left arm, and something felt wrong with his ribs. "Jiho!" Sora's voice terrified. She was beside him suddenly, her hands checking his injuries. "I'm okay," he managed to say. "The children?" "Safe. You saved them." Tears ran down her face. "You idiot! You could have died." A shadow fell over them. Princess Aaron knelt beside Jiho. Her markings were flickering rapidly between colors. Red, blue, gold, purple. Strong emotions, Jiho's foggy brain remembered. "Attend to him first," she ordered the medical team. "Your Highness, you take priority," the team leader protested. "But I was not harmed. He was. Attend to him now." Her voice carried absolute authority. The medical team began working on Jiho. The pain medication they gave him made everything soft and distant. But he heard Princess Aaron's voice clearly. "Why did you do that? Why risk yourself for people you don't even know?" Jiho looked up at her. "Where I come from, you protect those who can't protect themselves. Princess or farmer, adult or child, it doesn't matter. We protect each other." Princess Aaron was quiet for a long moment. Then she did something that made the medical team gasp. She took Jiho's uninjured hand in two of her own. "Your people are remarkable," she said softly. As they carried Jiho to the medical bay, he saw the aftermath of the attack. The Shadow Syndicate had been defeated, but the cost was high. Yet something had changed. When he saw alien delegates helping humans who had been wounded while protecting others, he saw species who had been rivals working together to put out fires. Maybe that's what humanity could offer the galaxy. Not superior technology or ancient wisdom, just the simple willingness to help each other. In the medical bay, as doctors worked on his injuries, Jiho's last thought before the medication put him to sleep was of Princess Erin's silver eyes. The way they had looked at him with something that might have been wonder, or maybe something more. 3 weeks after the attack, Jiho's injuries had healed enough for him to walk without pain. The burns on his arm had faded to pink scars that the doctors said would disappear in time. His ribs still ached when he breathed too deeply, but he was alive and functional. And what happened next surprised everyone. Princess Erin formally invited the human delegation to visit the Veltheran homeworld, Theros Prime. Such an invitation was unprecedented. The Veltherans rarely welcomed outsiders to their ancient capital. "This is a huge honor," Ambassador Kim told the delegation. "It means Princess Erin is seriously considering an alliance with Earth, but it also means we'll be under intense scrutiny. The Veltharan court is famous for its politics and protocols. We must be careful." The journey to Theros Prime took 4 days by coalition transport. When they emerged from faster-than-light travel, Jiho pressed his face to the viewport and stared. Theros Prime was beautiful. The planet glowed violet and blue from space. 3 moons orbited it in perfect synchronization. As their ship descended, Jiho saw cities that looked like they had grown rather than been built. Towers of living crystal spiraled toward the sky. Gardens covered entire mountainsides. Rivers flowed between buildings, channeled by ancient engineering. 10,000 years of civilization, Sora whispered beside him. Can you imagine? When humans were just learning to farm, the Veltherans were already building starships. They landed at the royal spaceport. Princess Erin herself greeted them, wearing formal robes that shimmered with embedded technology. Her markings glowed a warm gold. "Welcome to Theros Prime," she said. "I hope you will find your stay enlightening." The accommodations they were given would have housed royalty on Earth. Rooms with walls that could display any scene imaginable. Furniture that adjusted to each person's body. Yes, food synthesizers that could create almost anything. But Jiho noticed something as he explored the capital over the next few days. For all their beauty and technology, the Veltherans seemed sad. They moved through ancient routines with perfect grace, but no joy. Their cities were museums more than living places. "They're trapped," he told Sora one evening. "Trapped by their own success. They perfected everything, so there's nothing left to strive for." The formal reception at the palace was an education in alien culture. Hundreds of Veltheran nobles attended, dressed in elaborate robes. Music played that was thousands of years old. Servants moved with choreographed precision. Jiho met Emperor Thane, Princess Erin's father. He was tall even for a Veltheran, his violet skin marked with age. His eyes were the same liquid silver as his daughter's, but they looked tired. "So you are the human who saved my daughter," Emperor Thane said. His voice was deep and resonant. "I did what anyone should do, Your Majesty." "But most would not have." The Emperor studied Jiho carefully. "Princess Erin speaks highly of your people. She says you have qualities we have lost." Before Jiho could respond, another Veltharan approached. He was younger than the Emperor, but bore a strong resemblance to Princess Erin. This had to be Prince Kalen, her brother. "Father," Kalen said smoothly, "surely you don't put stock in the opinions of primitives? These humans have barely left their homeworld. What can they possibly teach us?" "Humility, perhaps," Emperor Thane said quietly. Something we seem to have forgotten." Prince Kalen's markings flashed red. Anger, but he bowed and retreated. Over the next few days, Jiho noticed Prince Kalen working against the human delegation. Small things at first. A changed schedule that made the humans late to an important meeting. Misinformation about Veltheran customs that made the humans appear rude. Rumors that the humans were secretly planning something nefarious. It came to a head at a formal dinner. Prince Kalen had arranged for the humans to be served a traditional Veltheran dish without explaining its significance. When Jiho and the others ate it casually, Several nobles gasped in shock. "You have insulted us," Prince Kalen announced, standing. "That dish is sacred to our people. It should be consumed with specific rituals you have ignored." The room fell silent. Jiho realized this was a setup. Refuse to eat and insult the hosts. Eat without the proper ritual and insult the culture. There was no winning, but Jiho had learned something about humans during this trip. When trapped, they didn't follow the expected path. They made their own. He stood up. "Your Highness, you're right. We did not know the proper rituals. We are ignorant of many of your ways. But let me tell you what I've learned since coming here." The room waited. "I've learned that your people have forgotten something important," Jiho continued. "You have thousands of years of history. You have technology we can barely understand. You have art and music and philosophy that puts ours to shame. But you become so focused on perfecting the old that you've stopped creating the new." Gas filled the room. Prince Kalen's markings flashed bright red, but Jiho kept talking. "My people are young. We make mistakes constantly. We don't know the proper rituals or the ancient customs, but that's our strength. We haven't learned to stop questioning. We haven't forgotten how to dream. Every day humans are trying new things, making new art, asking new questions. We grow because we're not afraid to be imperfect." He looked directly at Prince Kalen. "You can judge us for our ignorance. That's fair. But don't mistake ignorance for inability. We're not lesser than you. We're just different. And maybe, just maybe, the galaxy needs some imperfect, questioning. We're dreaming humans to remind everyone that it's okay to still be growing." The silence that followed was absolute. Then Emperor Thane began to applaud. It was slow at first, his four hands creating a complex rhythm. Then Princess Erin joined him. Then one by one, other nobles began to applaud as well. Prince Kalen stood alone in his anger. Later that night, Princess Erin found Jiho walking in the palace gardens. The gardens were different from those on the station. These were ancient, with trees that had stood for millennia. "That was either very brave or very foolish," she said, echoing Ambassador Kim's words from weeks before. "Probably both," Jiho admitted. They walked in silence for a while. Then Princess Erin spoke. "My father confided in me tonight. He said when he looks at humans, he sees what we Veltharans used to be. Passionate, curious, willing to take risks." "What happened to you?" Jiho asked gently. "We grew comfortable. We solved all our major problems. We eliminated disease, poverty, conflict within our empire. And in doing so, we eliminated the need to change. Now we simply maintain what we have. We are eternal and unchanging." She paused. "And slowly dying because of it." Jiho wanted to take her hand, but wasn't sure if that would be appropriate. "You don't have to be dying. You could choose to change." "Could we?" Princess Orin looked at him with those silver eyes. "I wonder. But when I'm with you, when I talk to your people, I feel something I haven't felt in years. Hope. Hope for what? Hope that we could be more than caretakers of ancient glory. Hope that we could create new things again. Hope that the future could be as bright as our past." She did take his hand then, her four hands carefully holding his too. "You make me believe in possibilities, Jiho of Earth." They stood together in the ancient garden, human and alien, representing two very different paths through the stars. But in that moment, those paths seemed to converge. In the shadows nearby, Prince Kalen watched them. His markings burned deep red. This was more than humans being granted coalition membership. His sister was falling for this primitive. The future of the Veltaran Empire was being threatened. He would not allow it. As Jiho and Princess Erin walked together under alien stars, speaking of dreams and possibilities, neither noticed the danger watching from the darkness. Neither knew that forces were already in motion that would test not just humanity's worthiness for the coalition, but their very survival. The galaxy was about to become much more dangerous. The emergency message arrived during breakfast. Jiho was eating with Sora in their quarters on Theros Prime when every screen in the room suddenly activated. Emperor Thane's face appeared, and even through the hologram, Jiho could see the fear. "All coalition delegates must return to Luminara's crown immediately. We are under attack." The Devourers had returned. Jiho had read about them in historical files. a hive mind species that consumed other civilizations, absorbing their biology and technology. They had nearly destroyed the galaxy 3,000 years ago before the ancient coalition forces drove them into dark space. Is the regions beyond explored territory. Everyone believed they were extinct. Everyone was wrong. Within hours, reports flooded in. 14 coalition worlds had been attacked simultaneously. The Devourer's biological ships moved like living creatures, adapting to any weapon used against them. They learned from every battle, growing stronger with each encounter. The human delegation rushed to the spaceport. Princess Erin met them there, her markings flickering between colors rapidly. Fear, anger, determination. "My father is mobilizing the Veltharan fleet," she said. "I must go with them. But Jiho, I wanted to see you before—" She trailed off. "Before what might be the end," Jiho finished quietly. She nodded. "Yes." They looked at each other for a long moment. Then Princess Erin did something shocking. She removed a pendant from around her neck and placed it in Jiho's hand. It was a small crystal that glowed with soft blue light. "This is a royal token," she explained. "It means you carry my faith and trust. In Veltharan culture, it is given only to those we value above all others." Jiho understood what she was really saying. His chest felt tight. "I'll keep it safe, and when this is over, I'll return it to you personally. I will hold you to that promise." She touched his face gently with one hand. Then she was gone, hurrying toward her flagship. The Coalition Council convened on Luminara's Crown in emergency session. Delegates from hundreds of worlds filled the chamber, all speaking at once. Panic was spreading. "Our conventional weapons are useless," a Thessian admiral reported. "The Devourers adapt to everything. If we hit them with plasma, they develop resistance. We use kinetic weapons, they grow armor. They're learning faster than we can develop new tactics." "We should retreat to defensive positions," suggested a Muradin general. "Fortify our core worlds." "And abandon the outer colonies?" Lord Cassith demanded. "Unacceptable." The arguing continued. Jiho sat with the human delegation, listening. He could see the problem clearly. The coalition was fighting with ancient tactics from ancient military databases. The Devourers had evolved specifically to counter those tactics. They had fought the coalition before and learned from it. What the galaxy needed was something new, something the Devourers had never encountered. Jiho stood up. "Excuse me, may I speak?" The chamber fell silent. The young human who had navigated the impossible nebula and saved Princess Erin had earned some respect. "The problem is predictability," Jiho said. "The Devourers evolved to fight the coalition. They know how you think, how you fight, but they've never fought humans." "You have 12 warships," Prince Kalen said coldly. He had arrived from Theros Prime and looked even angrier than usual. "What can 12 primitive vessels do against a fleet that defeated our ancestors?" "We can do what they won't expect," Jiho replied. "Our military tactics are different from yours. We don't follow ancient protocols. We improvise. We use what you would call chaos." "Chaos is not a strategy," scoffed a Korthan commander. "For you, maybe not. For humans, it's how we survive." Ambassador Kim stood beside Jiho. "What my colleague is suggesting is that humanity's military doctrine is based on asymmetric warfare. We fight smarter, not harder. We use deception, misdirection, and unconventional tactics. The Devourers have never faced that before." Admiral Hana, commander of Earth's small fleet, stepped forward. She was a stern woman with gray hair and the bearing of someone who had seen real combat. "Give us command of a joint task force. Let us coordinate coalition forces using human tactics. If we fail, you can blame us. But if we succeed, you save the galaxy." The council chamber erupted in argument. Some delegates thought it was insane to trust humanity with military command. Others were desperate enough to try anything. Finally, Emperor Thane spoke. "I support this proposal. We have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Admiral Hana, you will coordinate the defense of Theros Prime. It is the Devourer's next target." Prince Kalen looked furious. "Father, you cannot—" "I can and I will," the Emperor said firmly. "This is my decision." The vote was called. By a narrow margin, humanity was given command. Jiho and Daeun joined Admiral Hana's flagship, the Incheon. It was tiny compared to alien warships, but it was fast and maneuverable. Around it gathered a mixed fleet, Veltheran cruisers, Muradin fighters, Thessian carriers, and a dozen other species vessels. "This will be interesting," Dion muttered, looking at the diverse fleet. "How do you coordinate ships from 20 different species with 20 different command structures?" "Very carefully," Geo said. Admiral Hana's first act was to hold training sessions. Because she brought commanders from each alien ship onto the Inshan and taught them human tactics, guerrilla warfare, false retreats, feints and deceptions. The concept of sacrificing tactical advantage for strategic surprise. The alien commanders were shocked. "You deliberately make yourself vulnerable?" a Veltheran captain asked. "To lure the enemy into a trap, yes," Hana explained. "It's called bait. You give them something they want, so they expose themselves to attack." "That is dishonorable," a Muradin warrior protested. "That is survival," Hana replied. "Honor doesn't matter if you're dead." Princess Erin attended the sessions from her flagship, the Eternal Dawn. She absorbed every lesson, asking sharp questions. Jiho could see her mind working, adapting these strange human concepts to Veltharan capabilities. They drilled for 3 days. Then the Devourers arrived. The enemy fleet was massive, hundreds of biological ships that looked like a nightmare blend of insect and deep-sea creature. They moved in perfect coordination, the hive mind controlling them all. "All ships to positions," Admiral Hana ordered. Her voice was calm. "Remember the plan. Let them think we're fighting conventionally." The coalition fleet engaged. They used standard tactics at first, the kind the Devourers expected. Plasma weapons, kinetic missiles, energy shields. The Devourers adapted quickly, just as predicted. But hidden throughout the system were human ships disguised using Veltheran holographic technology. Not where military doctrine said they should be. Not in logical positions. In random, illogical places that no sane commander would choose. Jiho watched from the Inshan's bridge as the battle unfolded. It looked like the coalition was losing. Ships took damage. The Devourers pressed forward, confident in their adaptation. "Now," Admiral Hana said quietly. The hidden human ships dropped their disguises and attacked from impossible angles. But they weren't using conventional weapons. They were using Devourer biology against them. Dayun had developed a brilliant, terrible idea. The Devourers absorbed technology from species they consumed, so humanity gave them something to absorb. Programmed viruses disguised as biological material. When the Devourers tried to adapt to it, the viruses spread through their hive mind network. It wasn't enough to kill them, but it confused them, disrupted their coordination. "All ships, pattern Delta," Hana ordered. The coalition fleet began moving in seemingly random patterns, no formation, no predictable tactics, just chaos coordinated by human commanders who had learned to think in organized confusion. The Devourers, evolved to counter logical opponents, couldn't adapt to illogical ones. The battle raged for hours. Ships were lost on both sides. But slowly, impossibly, the coalition began to win. Jiho saw Princess Erin's flagship execute a perfect false retreat, luring Devourer ships into an ambush. She had learned well, but then the Devourer command ship appeared. It was enormous, a living vessel the size of a small moon. It headed straight for Theros Prime. "That's their queen," Daeon said, reading the bioscans. "The central intelligence of the hive mind. If we kill it, the rest will fall into disarray." "Can we kill it?" Jiho asked. "Guess not with conventional weapons. It's too well defended." Daeon looked at him. "But a ship could ram it, pierce the hull and detonate inside." Jiho understood immediately. A suicide mission. But it might save the galaxy. "I'll do it," he said. "No." Admiral Hana's voice was firm. "I won't order you to—" "You're not ordering, I'm volunteering." Before anyone could argue, Jiho was already moving toward the Soul's Pride. The Soul's Pride had seen better days. The diplomatic vessel bore scars from the Axios Nebula and several skirmishes with Devourer scouts. But its engines still worked, and that was all Jiho needed. "Jiho, don't do this!" Sora's voice cracked over the comm. She was safe aboard the Inshan, watching through sensors. "There has to be another way." "There isn't time to find one," Jiho replied, his hands moving over the controls. "That command ship will reach Theros Prime in 30 minutes. Billions of Veltharans live there. He didn't mention that Princess Erin's father was on the planet, coordinating the ground defense. He didn't need to. Dion's voice came through. Jiho, I'm sending you targeting data. The command ship's hull has weak points near what we think are sensory organs. Aim for those. Understood. The Soul's Pride broke from the coalition formation and accelerated toward the massive Devourer command ship. Almost immediately, the biological vessel detected the threat. Smaller Devourer ships moved to intercept. All ships cover the Soul's Pride, Admiral Hanna ordered. Give him a clear path. The coalition fleet responded instantly. Veltharan cruisers laid down covering fire. Mirrodin fighters engaged the interceptors in furious dogfights. Even species that had been hesitant about human tactics threw everything they had into protecting Jiho's run. The Soul's Pride shook as it took glancing hits. Alarms blared. The hull temperature was rising from atmospheric friction as Jiho pushed the engines past their safety limits. On the Eternal Dawn, Princess Erin watched the sensor display. Her 4 hands gripped her command throne so tightly the metal creaked. Her markings flashed red, then gold, then blue in rapid succession. Your Highness, her tactical officer said carefully, we could move to assist. No, Erin interrupted. Continue protecting the Incheon. Admiral Hanna needs to survive to coordinate the battle. She paused. And someone needs to finish this if Jiho fails. If, not when. And she refused to believe when. The Soul's Pride was getting close now. Jiho could see the command ship in detail through the viewport. It was horrifying and beautiful at once. Organic architecture that seemed to pulse and breathe. Thousands of smaller organisms crawling across its surface like cells in a body. The ship's defensive weapons opened fire. Biological projectiles that exploded on impact, spraying acid. Energy beams that seemed to be concentrated heat from the ship's own metabolism. The Soul's Pride's shields, already weakened, began to fail. Warning, the ship's computer announced in a calm voice. Hull breach imminent. Life support compromised. Recommend immediate evacuation. Recommendation noted and ignored, Jiho muttered. He armed the Soul's Pride's reactor to overload. In 2 minutes, it would explode with enough force to destroy anything within a kilometer. The trick was getting inside the command ship first. More weapons fire. The ship's left engine exploded. The Soul's Pride spun out of control. Jiho fought the controls using manual thrusters to correct the spin. His training from the nebula came back. Don't fight chaos. Work with it. He turned the spin into a corkscrew maneuver that brought him even closer to the command ship. The massive biological vessel loomed in the viewport now, filling his entire view. Jiho, Admiral Hanna's voice was tight. Your trajectory is off. You're going to miss the weak point. Jiho looked at the targeting display. She was right. The damage to his engines meant he couldn't adjust course enough to hit the optimal target. But there was another option. A human option. Not if I help, Jiho said. He diverted all remaining power to the forward thrusters. Not for acceleration, for braking. The Soul's Pride slowed dramatically, and the command ship's own movement brought it closer. At the last second, Jiho fired the lateral thrusters, rolling the ship. The Soul's Pride hit the command ship at an angle, piercing through the organic hull not at the weak point, but at a random section. Not where calculations said to hit. Just where human instinct and timing led. Sometimes that was enough. The ship tore through biological tissue and strange fluids. Jiho was thrown against his restraints as the Soul's Pride ground to a halt deep inside the command ship. Around him, the walls were alive. They pulsed and contracted, trying to repair the breach, trying to expel the foreign object. Our reactor overload in 30 seconds, the computer announced. Jiho hit the evacuation pod release. The tiny one-person escape vessel shot out of the Soul's Pride's back, using emergency thrusters to retreat from the command ship. 20 seconds. The pod wasn't fast enough. Jiho knew the math. He would still be too close when the reactor exploded. The blast would vaporize him. Then weapons fire from the Eternal Dawn created an opening in the command ship's hull ahead of him. Princess Erin was giving him an escape route. 10 seconds. The escape pod shot through the opening, just as the Soul's Pride's reactor reached critical mass. The explosion was beautiful and terrible. The command ship convulsed. For a moment, it seemed like it might survive. Then secondary explosions rippled through it as the overload ignited biological systems. The entire massive vessel began to break apart. On every coalition ship, sensors detected the same thing. The hive mind was fracturing. Without the central intelligence, the Devourer ships became confused, disorganized. They began to retreat, individual organisms fleeing rather than coordinated military units. All ships, pursuit mode, Admiral Hanna ordered. Don't let them regroup. The coalition fleet chased the fleeing Devourers, destroying them before they could escape to dark space. It was brutal but necessary. This threat had to end here. Jiho's escape pod drifted through the debris field, its engines dead from the electromagnetic pulse of the explosion. He was alive but floating helplessly in space. Jiho! Sora's voice over the comm, crying with relief. You're alive. For now, Jiho said, checking his pod systems. But I'm dead in the water. Life support will last maybe an hour. We're coming for you, Admiral Hanna said. Sit tight. But the Inchin was on the far side of the battlefield, engaging the retreating Devourers. It would take too long. I've got him, Princess Erin's voice cut through. Eternal Dawn moving to retrieve. The Veltheran flagship was much closer. It reached Jiho's pod in minutes. A docking bay opened, and gentle tractor beams pulled the escape pod inside. Jiho climbed out of the pod on shaking legs. His body ached from the impact and G-forces. Burns from overheated controls marked his hands. But he was alive. Princess Erin was waiting in the docking bay. She had left the bridge, abandoned her post in the middle of battle, to meet him personally. They looked at each other across the bay. Then Princess Erin ran to him, all four arms wrapping around him in an embrace that was decidedly unroyal. You fool, she whispered, her voice breaking. You magnificent, impossible fool. Jiho held her as tightly as his injured arms allowed. I promised I'd return your token. I keep my promises. She pulled back just enough to look at him. Her silver eyes were wet with tears. When I saw you flying toward that ship, I thought I would lose you before I could tell you. Tell me what? That somewhere between the nebula and now, between your first move at the summit and this moment, I fell in love with you. Jiho's breath caught. A human and an alien princess. It should be impossible, but standing here holding her, nothing had ever felt more right. On, I love you too, he said simply. They kissed. It was strange and wonderful, navigating different anatomies and biologies. But love had a way of bridging those gaps. Around them, alarms were still ringing. The battle was still ongoing. But for one moment, in the middle of chaos and war, there was peace. Back on the bridge, Princess Erin's tactical officer managed the ship alone, following the tactics Admiral Hanna had taught them. The crew pretended not to notice their princess's absence. Some things mattered more than protocol. The battle for Theros Prime was won. The Devourers were defeated, driven back into dark space or destroyed. The galaxy was safe, and everything was about to change. The Coalition Council met 1 week after the battle. This time, there was no debate about humanity's membership. The vote was unanimous. Earth was welcomed into the galactic community with full rights and privileges. But that was just the beginning of the changes. Emperor Thane stood before the assembled delegates, looking older but somehow lighter, as if a great weight had been lifted. I have an announcement, he said. Effective immediately, I am abdicating the throne of the Veltharan Empire. My daughter Arin will become empress. Shocked murmurs filled the chamber. Veltharan emperors ruled for life. Abdication was almost unheard of. My people have grown stagnant under my rule, Thane continued. We became caretakers of the past rather than builders of the future. Erin understands what we need. She will lead us into a new age. He looked directly at Princess Erin, who sat in the Veltharan section looking equally surprised. I am proud of you, daughter. You have shown me that change is not something to fear. It is something to embrace. Prince Kalen sat beside his sister, his markings a complicated mix of colors. He had fought against everything that led to this moment, but watching humanity save the galaxy had changed something in him. His pride was wounded, but he was learning humility. I support my sister's ascension, Kalen said quietly. It cost him to say it, but he meant it. The coronation took place on Theros Prime 3 days later. Representatives from across the galaxy attended. The ceremony was ancient, full of ritual and tradition dating back thousands of years. But Empress Erin added something new at the end. She invited human musicians to perform. Earth music, with its chaotic rhythms and unpredictable harmonies, filled the ancient halls. Some Velthoran nobles looked scandalized. Others began to move slightly to the beat, their markings flickering in time with the music. After the ceremony, there was a reception in the Crystal Gardens, the same gardens where Jiho and Aaron had first really talked. So much had changed since then. Jiho stood on a balcony overlooking the gardens, watching the celebration below. Sora was speaking excitedly with a group of Thessian scientists. Dayun was demonstrating human dance moves to bewildered alien delegates. Admiral Hana stood with Emperor Thane, the two old warriors sharing quiet conversation. "Quite a view," Princess Aaron said, joining him on the balcony. Except she wasn't Princess Aaron anymore. She was Empress Aaron. "Your Majesty," Jiho said with a small bow. "Don't you dare start with that," Aaron said, her markings flashing gold with amusement. "Not you, never you." They stood together in comfortable silence. Below, human and alien mingled freely, the barriers between species breaking down. "What happens now?" Jiho asked. "Now comes the hard part," Aaron replied. "Integrating humanity into the coalition, rebuilding the worlds damaged in the war, preparing in case the Devourers return." She paused, "and figuring out how an empress can be with the man she loves when that man is from another species." This was the problem they had both been avoiding. Veltharan law was clear. The empress must marry another royal of appropriate standing, preferably Veltharan, certainly not a human diplomatic aid. "The council won't accept it," Jiho said quietly. "What, your people won't accept it? Then I will change the law." "Aaron, no." She turned to face him fully. "Listen to me. My entire life I followed rules and protocols because that was what was expected. I watched my people grow comfortable and stagnant. I accepted that nothing would change because change was difficult." Her markings blazed gold and blue. "Then you arrived, you humans with your chaos and dreams and impossible courage. You showed me that change isn't just possible, it's necessary. You taught me that sometimes the greatest courage is taking the first step into unknown territory." She took his hands in hers. "You made the first move at the summit when you nodded to me. You made the first move in the nebula when you chose instead of calculated. You made the first move flying your ship into the command vessel." She smiled. "Now I'm making the first move. I am Empress. I will change the laws, and I will marry who I choose. The council will fight you. Let them. I have allies now. Species that saw humans save the galaxy. Progressive Velthorans who want change. Your people, who I suspect would back me just because it's the right thing to do." Jiho couldn't help but laugh. "You're starting to think like a human. Is that such a bad thing?" "No," Jiho said, pulling her close. "It's wonderful." The next day, Empress Aaron addressed the Veltharan High Council. The chamber was ancient, walls carved from single pieces of crystal millennia ago. Every important decision in Veltharan history had been made here. "I propose a reformation of marriage law," Aaron announced. "Members of the royal family should be permitted to marry outside species if such union promotes peace and understanding between civilizations." The council erupted. Some nobles supported her. Others were outraged. The debate raged for hours. Finally, Lord Kelvin, the oldest council member, stood. "Your Majesty, what you propose is unprecedented. It violates thousands of years of tradition." "Yes," Aaron said calmly, "it does." "And you believe this is wise?" "I believe it is necessary. Our traditions served us well for millennia. But the galaxy is changing. Humanity has shown us that. We can either change with it or be left behind as living fossils." She paused. "I love my people too much to let that happen." Lord Kelvin was quiet for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, he smiled. "Your Majesty, you remind me of your ancestor, Empress Thelora the Reformer. She too broke with tradition when tradition no longer served the people." He bowed. "I support this change." One by one, other council members added their support. Not all of them, not easily, but enough. The law was changed. 6 months later, Jiho and Aaron were married in a ceremony that blended human and Veltharan traditions. It was held in the Crystal Gardens, with delegates from across the galaxy in attendance. Sora served as maid of honor, crying through the entire ceremony. Prince Kalen, in a gesture that surprised everyone, including himself, stood as one of Aaron's attendants. When Jiho and Aaron exchanged vows, they spoke of more than love. They spoke of partnership between species, of growth and change, of having the courage to make the first move into an unknown future. I take you, Jiho said, not as an alien or an empress, but as Aaron, the person who taught me that the galaxy is bigger and more wonderful than I ever imagined. I take you, Aaron replied, not as a human or a hero, but as Jiho, the person who taught me that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is hope. They sealed their vows with a kiss as thousands cheered. The reception lasted 3 days, as was Veltharan custom, but it included human elements too. Earth food was served alongside Veltharan delicacies. Human and alien music played in rotation. People danced in styles from 100 different worlds. On the third evening, as the celebration finally wound down, Jiho and Aaron stood once more on the balcony overlooking the gardens, in the same spot where they had stood after her coronation. So, Aaron said, leaning against him, we've navigated impossible nebulas, defeated ancient enemies, changed galactic law, and gotten married. What do we do now? Jiho looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth hung in space, a young world full of dreamers and explorers. And beyond it, thousands of other worlds, each with their own challenges and possibilities. Now, he said, we show the galaxy what humans and Veltharans can accomplish together. We teach your people to dream again. We teach my people wisdom and patience. We build something new. A partnership, an alliance, a friendship. He smiled. A family. Aaron's markings glowed warm gold. I like that. A family of species working together. Below them, humans and aliens mingled freely. One Sora was teaching a group of young Veltharans about Earth biology. Dion was collaborating with Veltharan engineers on new ship designs. Admiral Hana spoke with Veltharan military commanders about combined defense strategies. The galaxy was changing. Old barriers were falling. New possibilities were opening. And it had started with one simple moment. A human looking at an alien princess and refusing to look away, choosing to nod in respect and recognition, making the first move. Thank you, Aaron said softly. For what? For being brave enough to see me as an equal when everyone else saw a princess on a pedestal? For having the courage to make that first move. She looked at him with those silver eyes that had first caught his attention so long ago. For loving me not despite our differences, but because you saw past them to who I really am. Jiho held her close. That's what humans do. We see possibilities where others see obstacles. We make the first move when others wait for permission. He smiled. And we love with everything we have, even when logic says we shouldn't. Then teach my people to be a little more human, Aaron said, echoing words from long ago. Teach us to make the first move. Only if you teach my people to be a little more Veltharan, to appreciate beauty and wisdom, to build things that last. Deal, Aaron said. They kissed under alien stars, human and Veltharan, husband and wife, representative of two species learning to walk forward together. The galaxy had changed, but this was just the beginning, because once you learn to make the first move, and to step forward into uncertainty with courage and hope, there's no limit to what you can accomplish. The alien princess had gazed at the strange newcomers to her galaxy. The human had made the first move. And from that simple beginning, everything had changed. This was not an ending, it was a beginning. The start of a new era where species worked together not because they were the same, but because they celebrated their differences. Where humanity's chaos and the Veltharan's wisdom combined to create something neither could achieve alone. Where love proved stronger than law, and courage opened doors that tradition had kept closed. Jiho and Aaron walked back into the celebration, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next. Together, they would show the galaxy that the future belonged to those brave enough to make the first move. And what a future it would be.